Hello, good morning, my dear students. Let us study the various properties of colloids. The third property is about the color. The color of colloid system depends on the wavelength of light scattered by the dispersed particles. The wavelength of light scattered by the dispersed particle depends upon the size and nature of the particles. The color of the colloid system changes with the manner in which the observer receives the light. Example, a mixture of water and milk appears blue when it viewed by the reflected light, appears red when viewed by the transmitted light. You can see here we have the mixture of milk and water. This is the light source. We can write here the light source. From this light source, the light goes inside. This is the mixture of. So if you observe the reflected light, you will see it blue in color. I have shown it with the blue color. This is the blue in color. And if you observe it from the transmitted light, you will see it in red in color. So this is how you can understand that from where you view this is like it also changes the color. The color of colloid system changes as the size of the colloidal particle change. For example, gold sol, when it is finest, means very small size, it is of red color. Then as the size increases, then it turns as first purple, then from purple to blue, and then from blue finally it turns into golden color. So this is how we can understand about the color of the colloidal particles. Then we'll move to the next one, which is known as the next characteristic, which is known as the Brownian movement. When colloidal system is viewed under the powerful ultramicroscope, the colloidal particles appears to be in the state of continuous zigzag motion all over the field of view. The movement was first observed by the British scientist Robert Brown, so it is called the Brownian movement. You can see that this is the zigzag movement of colloid particle, which is known as the Brownian movement. We'll now study the definition. The zigzag movement of colloidal particle observed under the ultramicroscope is known as the Brownian motion. Then reason for the Brownian motion. Why do we observe this Brownian motion? The Brownian movement has been explained due to the unbalanced bombardment of the particles by the molecules of the dispersion medium. See, we know that the particles of matter are continuously moving, so this dispersion medium particle also moves, and with this movement they also make this colloidal particle to move into the zigzag way, which is known as the Brownian movement. Effect that stabilize the sol. Brownian movement actually has a steering effect that do not allow or do not permit the particles to settle down, and this is how it is responsible for the stability of sols. Then we have the question: does the work or the observation of Zsigmondy provide any information about the size and shape of the colloid, or does ultramicroscope provide any information about the size and shape of the colloidal particle? So the answer is ultramicroscope does not render the actual colloid particle visible but only observe the light scattered by them. Thus ultramicroscope does not provide any information about the size and shape of the colloidal particle. So ultramicroscope does not provide any information about the size and shape of the colloidal particles. Yeah, it's very simple to understand. Actually, when we observe the colloid under the ultramicroscope, actually we observe the light scattered by the colloidal particle. We cannot see the colloid particle, and that is why we cannot understand about the shape and size of the colloid particle. Now we'll study about the charge on the colloid particles. Colloid particles always carry an electric charge, so depending upon the type of charge we divide it into two classes. First is known as the positively charged colloids. The examples are hydrated metallic salts like Al2O3 into XS2O, or CrO3 into XS2O, or Fe2O3 into XS2O. basic dyestuffs like methylene blue sol. Then hemoglobin is also the positively charged, and oxides of TiO2 or TiO2 oxide sol is also a positively charged sol. Then we have the negatively charged sol. Examples are metal salts as such as the gold sol or copper sol or silver sol. Then we have the metallic sulfide salts like arsenic sulfide or antimony sulfide or cadmium sulfide. They are the negatively charged. Then we have the acid dyestuffs as eosin sol or congorate sol. Then the sol of starch, gum, gelatin, clay and charcoal are also of the negatively charged. Why do colloid particles have charge on them? The charge on the colloid particle may be due to one of the following reasons. There are so many reasons due to which the particles have charge. Due to electron capture by sol particles during the electro dispersion of metals, due to the preferential adsorption of iron from the solution, due to formulation of electrical double layer. Now here we need to understand one reason, that is preferential adsorption of iron. So explain preferential adsorption of iron. This is what we have already studied into the part or into the topic which is known as the peptization. So it is just a revision, but we'll try to see it. The sol particles acquire positive charge or negative charge by preferential adsorption. Whenever there is a preferential adsorption, there is a rule. So what is the rule for the preferential absorption? Let us see rule for the preferential adsorption. When two or more ions are present in the dispersion medium, preferential adsorption of common ion takes place. So let us understand with the example. When silver nitrate AgNO3 solution is added to electrolyte or peptizing agent added to solution, this means silver nitrate behave as an electrolyte or peptizing agent and it is added to solution containing silver iodide precipitate. See, silver iodide and silver nitrate, so silver ion is common, that is why silver ion is preferentially adsorbed and we get the positively charged. Same way, when potassium iodide solution, which is an electrolyte or peptizing agent, is added to solution containing silver iodide. Here you can see potassium iodide, silver iodide. Iodide ion is common, iodide is negatively charged ion, and that is why you will get the negatively charged particle or negatively charged ion AgI/I minus. Same way, when FeCl3 is added to excess of hot water, hot water, you can see here FeCl3 added to hot water, you get FeOH3. This FeOH3, due to heat, it turns into Fe2O3 into 3H2O. Same way here, Fe2O3 is converted into Fe2O3 into XH2O. So when FeCl3 is added to excess of hot water, precipitates of Fe2O3 into XH2O, hydrated ferric oxide precipitates are formed which adsorbs Fe plus 3 ion. So Fe2O3 XH2O adsorbs Fe plus 3 ion and you get positively charged colloid. And same way, if you add the ferric chloride into the NaOH, so you actually know that this is the OH minus ions, FeOH thrice. So these OH minus ions also get adsorbed on it, which are the common ion, and you get negatively charged sol. So when we add FeCl3 to hot water only, we get positively charged sol. When we add FeCl3 into NaOH, we get negatively charged sol. This is how we can understand about the preferential adsorption of sol. I hope, my dear students, you are enjoying the studies. Happy learning.